Hey everybody, my name is Tony 2.0 and I'm here again today with patch notes for League of Legends 4.2. There's a lot of patch notes that went into this time, and I'm just going to hit the major stuff, kind of run down everything. Really what you should know is that there was two major changes. Two champs were basically reworked completely, Zerth and Scarner. Other than that, some minimal changes and actually nerfs going to a few champs that we'll cover and a few other bug fixes. So, let's get started. First and foremost, I did repair a part with the client itself. This client, when you had crashes or you got kicked out of the game or something like that, used to not do a whole lot. Now the client will actually update itself, and each time you log in, it should hopefully soft repair the issues that you're having. They did upgrade the ticker as well, so we'll get more information. And the whole game invites thing has kind of been reworked. They put a new layout in, and everything's going to look a little bit different when that happens. The Journal of Justice, or that little leaf that's up there on your little taskbar there, been removed because it just hasn't been updated, so nobody's using it. Why? There's also a big thing going in with pick order. The pick order, they kind of balanced it a little bit. Instead of the person who has the most experience getting the first one, or the problem that you had sometimes with duo queue players, they kind of recorrected that. Now everyone has an equal random chance of being picked first. There was a few aesthetic updates. Soraka and Ashe's ability icons were both updated. And then particle updates. Flash, Clairvoyance, Ghost, and Revive. All of those got particle updates. That takes us into the meat of things. The first rework was for Zerth. Zerth got a complete workover. Basically, just kind of nerfing some stuff, balancing some stuff, and getting everything together. Let's get into the general. His base mana was dropped from 250 down to 238. And then his base mana regen from 7 every 5 seconds down to 6, as well as his attack range was reduced 550 down to 525. Although that doesn't seem a little much, it does make him a little bit more risky in lane. His passive, or his mana surge, every 10 seconds your next basic attack restores between 30 and 195 mana. The amount it restores scales when your character levels, and then the effect, attacking an enemy champion, restores double that amount of mana. Moving on to his Q, the Arcano Pulse. First cast, begin channeling. Gradually increase the spell's range from 7 to 1400 while slowing movement speed up to 50%. Zerth can move while channeling as well. Second cast, damage all enemies in a line from 80, 120, 160, 200, 240 on up as you scale. And that's all based off magic damage. His cooldown reduces on his Q from 9876 all the way down to 5. And his mana cost from 80 up to 120 at top. The range on that, channeling across the abilities range from 700 to 1400 over 1.5 seconds. And then the effect is Zerth can hold a full range Arcano Pulse for an additional 1.5 seconds. Second effect, while channeling the spell, Zerth gradually slows his movement speed by up to 50%. The W, Eye of Destruction, calls down a ground targeting blast of energy, dealing 60 to 180, plus 0.06 for ability power. Magic damage to all enemies caught within the blast and slowing them by 10%. There's a complete rework to the W. I'll leave all the description down below so you guys can go see those patch notes a little further. Just want to cover the main stuff here quickly. Going on to his E, the Shocking Orb. Fires an orb of raw magic in a straight line. The first enemy hit takes 80 to 200 plus 0.5 for ability power, magic damage, and is stunned for between 0.75 and 2 seconds. Stun duration is based on how far the orb travels. I haven't tried this yet, so I don't know how that all works. I'm guessing longer travels, less of a stun. Cooldowns on that are pretty, from 13 down to 11. Mana cost from 60 to 80, and the range is 1000. Moving on to his ultimate, Rite of the Arcane. Zerth roots himself in place, gains 3 shots of an arcane barrage, at a very long range magic artillery. It does 190 to 300 plus 0.43 ability power, magic damage to all the enemies it hits. Zerth can cancel this effect early. Half of the cooldown is refunded if no shots of the arcane barrage are used. So quite a big change for his ultimate. Essentially the same thing, they just kind of added his old W into his R. That's going to take us into the rework of Scarner. Basically what they did here was kind of give him a moderate workover. Kind of wanted to bring his slashing, impaling in line with other champs. So let's start with his passive. The passive Energize, actually they lowered by 1% for his overall attack speed. Moving on to his Q, the Crystal Slash. This no longer slows, which is a little weird. The slow actually got moved over to his E. Going on down to his the W, crystalline exoskeleton. The cooldown was increased from 10 to 16 seconds, and then the movement speed bonus was increased slightly. It goes from 16 to 32% instead of 15 to 23, and this now ramps up over the first 3 seconds. Base shield and the ability power ratio. This was given a slight buff as well from from 70 to 250. That was increased to 80 to 300 plus 0.08 for ability power. This no longer provides any attack speed bonus on his W. It's a little weird for you junglers, but I guess they're trying to make it better. Who knows? Going into his fracture, cooldown was increased again from 10 to 14 seconds. Targets are hit now slowed by 30 to 50% for up to 2.5 seconds. And then the range was increased from 0 to 1,000. His missile width reduced slightly, as well as the missile speed was lowered slightly, and the effect, the heal mark was completely removed. So this, I don't like the change to Scarner. You guys will have to let me know what you think. His impale, Scarner will no longer prematurely celebrate with his catch lines. Now I've got you, unless he successfully grabs the target. That's probably a good thing. Moving on down to the minor changes to champions. Ashe, they reduced her Hawkshot cooldown at the later levels and changed its bonus gold to 3 at all ranks. The cooldown used to be 60 at all ranks, now it's 60 and scales down to 40. Bonus gold on kill was 1 to 5, now it's just 3 across the board. Moving on down to Mundo. Mundo's cleaver got skinnier. Basically, the width was 80, now it got moved down to 60. Makes it a little bit more of a skill shot. Going on to Evelynn. The closer Evelynn is to her target, the faster her hate spike projectile now travels. This, for her Q, should help Evelynn be even more beastly, if you ask me. Kayle got quite a bit of change going on with her. They lowered Reckoning's AP ratio, while raising the AP ratio of her W, the Divine Blessing. Her intervention, they actually dropped the mana cost completely. This to me is a little bit weird. For her Q, the ability power ratio was 1, now it's down to 0.6, while the Divine Blessing was 0.35, and that goes to 0.45. That's going to take us down to Riven. Basically, Riven got a very small buff, then got a small nerf, then a buff, and it's kind of weird how this works. In general, her base health regen went from 5.5 to 2.5, so that's a huge change for that part. But then they went with her E, her Valor, and gave her shield a lot. It's stronger. Instead of going from 70 to 190, she goes from 90 to 210. So kind of just, I don't understand the change in that one, but for whatever reason they went that way. Hopefully it will, with that change in her health regen, it will make her a lot less of a carry. Rumble, Flame Splitter, looks okay, is what this patch note says. It says Rumble now spits real flame instead of meatballs for the Flame Spitter. Spell effect has been updated as well. Going on to Thresh. Thresh's very long range for his basic attack was reduced. So the basic attack range went from 475 to 450. This will make him a little bit tougher, especially I think in his support roles. I don't know how that's going to affect him in things like ARAM, but we'll see. Next champ they made a slight little change to is going to be Yasuo. His movement to generate a unit of flow was increased by 15%. Small buff there. Now passively displays a range indicator around Yasuo when Steel Tempest Whirlwind is available. That's pretty. That's good, in my opinion. For his E, his Sweeping Blade got a slight little bit of a nerf. Instead of the flow when he dashes being from 4 to 20, now he goes from 3 to 15. And the cast range on his ultimate was reduced as well from 1300 down to 1200. Ziggs, I personally don't feel like they did enough, but they tried to minimize how much he can irritate and poke you in the beginning. So his passive, the short fuse, there is a huge list of how it was nerfed. Really, all that you need to know is that he's going to do less damage early game, but he's still going to be as strong late game. The only other change to Ziggs was his E went from 100% damage on his mines down to 40% damage from each mine. And that's only applied to minions. I wish that they would have done that across the board. The rest of what was remaining on this patch was simply just little bug fixes. A few changes, one with Akali's Shadow Dance, Elisa's Spider Form, Sona, Teemo, Yorick, just all bug fixes on those, no buffs or nerfs. The items, Static Shiv, Warden's Mail, and the Randuin's Omen all got a little bit of a bug fix as well. You can go down below, look at that link, it will tell you exactly what those are. Changes to masteries. Perseverance. Perseverance as a mastery they felt was completely overpowered in comparison with equivalent masteries, particularly once you got your first big HP items. So they brought that back down to kind of be more in line. So that got quite a bit of a nerf as well. Basically cut itself in half for the missing health per 5. Summoner's Rift took a little bit of a change as well. If you remember in 4.1, they did a little bit of a thing with the permanent flat rate on the damage from the turrets. Instead, now they've changed it to only that flat rate will apply to the first 8 minutes. This apparently is going to help them create the issues that they had trying to stop those speed lane pushes early game in competitive play. Guys, that's pretty much all that's on this patch. It was quite a lot of changes as far as champions are concerned. I want to know what you think down below. I hope this is helpful. If you'd like me to continue doing these, please click those likes, subscribe, comment, all of that stuff. And I'll be back at 4.3. Later.